Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar meets his counterpart, Secretary of State Antony Blinken, as New Delhi hosts India-US 2+2 ministerial dialogue. US says Israel agrees to a 4-hour daily humanitarian pause in northern Gaza to allow civilians to flee. Prime Minister Netanyahu says Israel does not seek to govern Gaza, asserts fight will continue until Hamas is eradicated. And in cricket, Afghanistan will face South Africa in the ICC World Cup match today at Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in India's national capital, New Delhi, for the 5th India-US 2+2 ministerial dialogue. US State Secretary Blinken met India's Foreign Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. The two leaders shook hands and greeted each other before heading for the 2+2 ministerial dialogue. US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin is also in Delhi for the ministerial dialogue. The Indian side of the dialogue will be led by Defense Minister Rajnath Singh and External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar.
It's always wonderful to be in India. We're building on a rather remarkable year of engagement, and I think it's just evidence of the fact that we have not only the strongest bilateral partnership we've ever had, but also a regional one and indeed a global one. And that was further evidenced by India's leadership of the G20 this year. And as Jai said, we have a lot to do, including with our defense colleagues, so I'm very much looking forward to that. And I think it's further evidence of our resolute focus from the United States on the Indo-Pacific, our region, for the future, and the future is actually now, and we're building it now, and we're building it together with India.
This meeting, this visit of yours, I think has a particular significance because one, we need to follow up on the Prime Minister's June visit and the President's coming here in September, so there's a lot of bilateral stuff we need to do. And two, of course, this is the 2+2, so we take a broader view of what we're doing. Then, of course, as Quad members, there's the Indo-Pacific that we're focusing on. And finally, we look at global regional issues, and I think what's happening in West Asia, Middle East, to you folks. That, I think, is a very big concern right now. I look forward to discussing those and other matters with you.
On the 5th India-US 2+2 ministerial dialogue, Dr. Mukesh Aghi, President and CEO of the US-India Strategic Partnership Forum, said that Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin will emphasize on India's vital relationship with the US, especially in the Middle East, indicating its potential impact on the coastal region.
Well, Secretary Blinken and Secretary of Defense are there while there are a lot of fires burning all across the world. It sends a message that the relationship with India and US is very important, is very critical, and they have to maintain the momentum going forward. India plays a pivotal role, especially in the Middle East. Its relationship with Israel, its relationship with Saudis, UAE, and then India's position supporting Israel while having 200 million Muslims in India. It sends a clear message that India will play a much more pivotal role, especially in the Middle East, and can be a big partner of the United States and Israel and other countries in the region.
New Delhi is hosting the 5th edition of the India-US 2+2 ministerial dialogue today. The foreign and defense ministers of both the countries will participate in it. The annual dialogue takes place amid the Ukraine-Russia and the Israeli-Palestinian conflicts. Jessica Taneja gives us a lowdown on this.
Every year, the 2+2 Ministerial Dialogue brings together India's foreign and defense ministers with their US counterparts to address and collaborate on common concerns to enhance and strengthen relationship between the two nations. Over the years, America has offered strong bipartisan support to India. From making it a major defense partner in 2016 to holding Quad meetings at the leaders level. For a non-treaty ally, America has made a significant change in its policy. With India-US trade likely to touch $300 billion in 2026 and 27, the Ministerial Dialogue helps in promoting forums like G20, the Quad, and IPEF, or the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework. For America, India is also an important ally for its free and open Indo-Pacific strategy. The 2+2 Ministerial Dialogue has seen some great momentum over the years. The signing of Logistics Exchange Memorandum of Agreement, or the LEMOA, in 2016, the signing of COMCASA, or the Communications Compatibility and Security Agreement, in 2018, along with the Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement, or the BECA, in 2020. Not only was signing COMCASA and other important pacts in the foundational years a big step, but providing waivers to India from Russia sanctions was a significant advancement in the relationship. In fact, 5 years ago, India was given the Strategic Trade Authorization status for transfers of some dual-use high-technology trade. While these deals are good signs of convergences, looking at the current momentum, further framework for overcoming hurdles on regulation of technology, digital economy, few matters of global governance have also been put in place now. Jessica Taneja for DD India.
All right, Akshay Dongre joins us live for more. Akshay, good morning. As we speak, the talks, the dialogue, the 2+2 dialogue between the ministers will begin in some while from now. Very quickly, let us get a sense of what all will be taken up in as the agenda.
Well, Preeti, a very good morning to you as well. And as far as these talks are concerned, the ministerial level talks, the 2+2 talks that have been talked about a lot, they are about to start. We are right now standing outside the Sushma Swaraj Bhavan. And this is the place where the talks will take place between Dr. S. Jaishankar, the Foreign Minister of India, his counterpart, US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, as well as the Defense Minister of India, Mr. Rajnath Singh, and the Defense Secretary of the US, Lloyd Austin. So as far as the top agenda is concerned, the priority area for these two countries are concerned, there are certain things that have been talked about before the summit started and even right now. So first one would be the Israel-Palestine conflict that has grave consequences as far as the entire global south and the economy of the region is concerned. The spillover is taking place right now, and that is going to be a grave challenge as far as both the US and India's security are concerned. So that is one thing where both the leaders may in fact talk to. In fact, I can just show you right now. It seems that the US convoy has already started coming here. Behind me, you can see the cars now reaching Sushma Swaraj Bhavan, and US Secretary of State Antony Blinken, along with the Defense Secretary, will be here, and there will be talks throughout the day. But as far as the top agenda is concerned, we can expect the Israel-Palestine conflict to be taken up, the Ukraine war, that is in fact paramount to the US foreign policy. In fact, even in India's foreign policy, it is of crucial importance to in fact find some sort of solution to this ongoing conflict. The third point is free and fair Indo-Pacific. That is economically extremely important for both the US as well as India. They have common challenges in that region as well as the South China Sea region, where we have seen tensions mounting up with both India and US trying to maintain their position that the South China Sea along with the Indo-Pacific should be free and open for trade. So these are certain things that will be taken up today as far as the meetings are concerned, and we'll see that what exactly are the common agendas the two countries, the leaders of the two countries come up with by the evening today. Preeti, back to you.
All right, Akshay, now this 2+2 dialogue, I would want you to explain to our viewers more as to how crucial or how significant is this dialogue, because this happens every year. Last time we saw US hosted Dr. S. Jaishankar and Defense Minister in Washington, and there the 2+2 dialogue took place. This is the 5th edition of the dialogue. How far has this dialogue evolved? And when we talk of the outcomes, when we talk of the discussions, how crucial are they with regard to the positioning of the countries, both the countries, participating countries on the global page?
Well, Preeti, extremely important. That is the word as far as these 2+2 dialogues are concerned. They have been extremely important, not just for India, but for the US as well. US realizes India's growing might, India's growing power, both as an economic superpower as well as a military power. In the region, US requires, or rather needs India's support as far as the Indo-Pacific region is concerned, where it has been challenged by China at each and every step. So as far as the fifth edition is concerned of the 2+2 dialogue, for the benefit of our viewers, I would like to explain that what exactly does it pertain. So the two most important industries as far as the security and the diplomacy is concerned, the foreign ministry and the defense ministry, the leaders from these two countries have meetings by the top leadership in these two ministries. For example, every year, the US Secretary of State meets the foreign minister of India, and the defense secretary of the US meet and exchange ideas with the defense minister of India, so that both of these countries can cooperate. They can have synergy as far as the working environment in the Indo-Pacific region is concerned. But as we have seen in the past 2 years, the security challenges have evolved. They have become more complex with Russia waging war on Ukraine, as well as with the latest conflict that has broken out now in Middle East. India requires US requires India. Both of these nations are democracies. Both of these nations believe in rule of law, and both of these nations need to work on the same page as far as the challenges as well as opportunity areas are concerned. So both of these countries send their leaders, they hold discussions, they talk about evolvement of their policies as far as the regions are concerned of mutual benefit and mutual interest, as well as defense requirement. When we talk about the synergy in these two countries, we have seen that India and US have in fact enhanced their defense cooperation. There are bilateral military exercises. There are joint development of technologies. For example, India and US have signed for development of for production rather of the GE 414 engine that is going to be extremely important for our Tejas platform. Then we are acquiring drones. There are talks of acquiring different kind of weapon systems from the US, as well as US also interested in finding India as a manufacturing hub for its economy. So that is why 2+2 dialogues become very important as far as the foreign policy as well as the defense policy of these two countries are concerned. And that's why they meet every year and discuss and share ideas as well as discuss the evolving situations across the world.
All right, Akshay, we leave it here as of now, but we'll come back to you again when the dialogue begins. That was our correspondent Akshay Dongre joining us from Delhi, spelling out more details on what could be expected in the 2+2 ministerial dialogue. And even as he was speaking, we could see the convoy of the US delegation reach Sushma Swaraj Bhavan in the national capital. In some while from now, the dialogue will begin and we'll keep you updated. But meanwhile, let's get you updates on the Israel-Hamas conflict. The White House on Thursday said that Israel has agreed to put in place 4-hour daily humanitarian pause in its counter-terrorism operations in northern Gaza. The decision came after President Joe Biden pressed Israelis for a multi-day stoppage in fighting in a bid to negotiate the release of hostages held by Hamas.
There will be 2 humanitarian corridors allowing people to flee the areas of hostilities in the northern part of Gaza. The first such corridor, open between 4 and 5 hours every day for the past few days, has already enabled many thousands of people to reach safer areas. The second route along the coastal road will enable many more thousands to reach safer areas in the south. And of course, we are continuing to work closely with our Israeli partners to address and remain vigilant about efforts from Hamas to discourage and prevent civilians from fleeing this area.
The United Nations has said that any halt to fighting between Israel and Hamas in the Gaza Strip for humanitarian purposes would need to be coordinated with the United States.
Well, we've just seen the press reports not long ago. I mean, how any such halt in the fighting and how it would work for humanitarian purposes would need to be coordinated with the United Nations, especially on the issue of timings and location. And obviously, in order for this to be done safely for humanitarian purposes, it would have to be agreed with all parties to the conflict to be truly effective.
Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Thursday that his country does not seek to govern Gaza after its war against Hamas, even as the army will continue its offensive until Hamas is eradicated. In an interview with Fox News, Netanyahu said that a civilian government would need to take shape in Gaza, but Israel would make sure an attack like October 7th does not happen again. Israel has described videos released by Hamas on Thursday of 2 hostages held in Gaza as a sign of life, but called them part of their captors' campaign of psychological warfare.
הערב הופץ תיעוד שמראה אות חיים של חנה ויגיל היקרים מתוך רצועת עזה. אנחנו מחבקים אותם ואת המשפחות שלהם ואומרים להם ולכל המשפחות של החטופים, והחטופים הם שומעים אותי. אנחנו לא החמצנו אף הזדמנות ואנחנו לא נחמיץ אף הזדמנות באשר היא להשבת חטופים. צה"ל פועל יחד עם יתר הארגונים הביטחוניים מסביב לשעון במאמץ עליון, מודיעיני, מבצעי, אזרחי, כל...
The Lebanese Islamist group Hezbollah fired missiles over the border into Israel, and Israel's military responded with artillery fire. Israel's defense minister this week said about 70 Hezbollah fighters have been killed in Israeli airstrikes till now. The IDF also struck terrorist targets using artillery and the Iron Sting guided mortar munition. Terrorist compounds and infrastructure observation posts, technological equipment used to terrorize Israeli civilians were also used. The Israeli military said an Israeli was killed on Sunday in an attack by Hezbollah over the border. Up next, a short break, but to still come on this edition of DD India News Hour, leaders of the US and China gear up for a probable meeting, their first face-to-face interaction in 12 months. We tell you ahead what's so special about Dhanteras and its celebration. Stay with us to know the star attraction at Diwali Bazaar, organized by Blind Relief Association in Delhi. Welcome back. After the break, you're watching DD India News Hour and I'm Preeti. The UK government is going to add India to a list of safe states, which would speed up the process of returning people who have travelled from India illegally. With this addition, all asylum claims from the Indian nationals who arrive on small boats or illegally on other routes will be deemed inadmissible. There will be no appeals and they will be sent back. In a statement, the UK Home Office said that besides India, Georgia is also added to the list of safe states. It noted that the decision will mark another step in the delivery of Illegal Migration Act 2023 and its plans to stop the boats. The draft legislation was laid in the UK Parliament on Wednesday. And there is growing speculation that the leaders of the United States and China are gearing up for a meeting, their first face-to-face interaction in 12 months. Although there is no confirmation of a get-together, lawmakers on Capitol Hill have drawn up a list of issues they want Joe Biden to bring up with Xi Jinping. Nick Harper gets us details.
Well, all signs seem to suggest that this meeting will take place between President Biden and President Xi, and yet there is still no confirmation, neither from Washington nor Beijing, that the two leaders will actually get together in the same room. And yet it hasn't stopped US cable news networks here in the United States having various different panel discussions to look at what could be on the agenda. We've had think tanks here in Washington holding symposiums to look at a potential list of topics that the two men will want to take on. So, no confirmation yet, but we have seen Republicans in the House of Representatives push President Biden to challenge President Xi on a number of issues they feel should be raised. They also argue that by doing so, it would show that the US is serious about strengthening the relationship and taking it forward. In amongst that list of demands, there is stopping the flow of chemicals from China, chemicals that are used in the production of fentanyl that then leads to drug overdoses here in the US. They also want President Biden to bring up the topic of the pro-democracy campaigner Jimmy Lai, the Hong Kong pro-democracy campaigner who is still being held, and they want him to challenge President Xi on the escalation of confrontations in the South China Sea that we've seen in recent weeks. There's been plenty of diplomacy in recent weeks between the two countries, including Wang Yi, the foreign minister, coming here to Washington, D.C. We've got the Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen meeting with the Chinese Vice Premier, and yet still that confirmation that the two presidents are going to be meeting is yet to come. We could see that in the coming days. Some suggestion that potentially Xi Jinping could come here to Washington for a meeting at the White House, or simply that the two men might have a brief chat on the sidelines of the APEC summit in San Francisco. Nick Harper in Washington, reporting for DD India.
The overturning of Roe versus Wade in the United States last year was a major victory for anti-abortion groups. Since then, more than a dozen Republican-led states have banned the procedure, but the issue has now become the Achilles heel of the GOP. Elections earlier this week showed that abortion access is still motivating voters, even in conservative states. And as Tony Waterman explains, that's got Republicans worried with less than a year to go before the 2024 presidential elections.
This is now the second time abortion access has stunted the Republican Party. The first was in the midterms last year when an anticipated red wave was a mere splash. And now this week, voters soundly rebuked Republican efforts to limit abortion access, perhaps most notably in Ohio, a Republican-led, deeply conservative state. Voters there overwhelmingly voted to enshrine abortion rights into the state's constitution. In Virginia, voters outright rejected the Republican governor's efforts to shake the image of the GOP as abortion extremists. He has been pushing for a 15-week ban or limit, as he calls it, on abortion, but voters thwarted those efforts, giving Democrats control of both chambers in the state legislature. Republicans have known for a while that they need to shift their messaging on this issue, but anti-abortion policies are so deeply associated with the party that experts say it will be difficult to change voters' perceptions by next year. Plus, a number of GOP presidential candidates are anti-abortion. Indian American Vivek Ramaswamy, for example, calls abortion a form of murder, while Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has signed a 6-week abortion ban. After Tuesday's weak showing, though, advisors are now reportedly telling Republican candidates at all levels to soften and modify their messaging, especially as a number of abortion rights groups in swing states like Arizona, Nevada, and Florida step up efforts to get abortion on the ballot in 2024. In Austin, Tony Waterman reporting for DD India.
And back home, Minister of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship has announced the first ever Indian Institute of Skill of India under Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur. DD India's correspondent Kriti Vadera gets us more details.
Indian Institute of Skills Kanpur has informed 3 crucial partnerships with Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited HAL and Dassault Aircraft Services India DASI to empower and prepare Indian youth, particularly in Uttar Pradesh. 5 new courses for aerospace and defense sectors will be launched initially. Addressing the stakeholders of industry, Minister of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, Dharmendra Pradhan, said this collaboration marks a significant chapter towards shaping the future of skill development and empowering India's youth.
Our Nagpur factory is not only supplying the domestic Rafale industry, we are also supplying to the global market from Nagpur. Few days back I came to know about the same story from the Airbus. Airbus is exporting for its military and domestic aviation sector, its consumer, around $2 billion worth of commodity. But do more business with one condition, make in India. You put up your plant, You build more, you do more business in India.
These collaborations aim to provide quality training and access to new age courses in aviation and defense, thereby meeting the skilled workforce needs of Uttar Pradesh, especially in the UP Defense Industrial Corridor.
This new Center of Excellence will be part of the National Deployment Plan for the Pan-India Training and Education Initiative, elaborated through the Dassault Skill Academy program. This plan objective is to fulfill the Indian aerospace industry requirements, enabling to help position India as a world reference in terms of competencies in aeronautics, in accordance with the Prasar Bharati policy.
The partnerships represent a unique collaboration between education, skilling, and leading industries, aligning with the National Education Policy 2020 and the vision of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to enhance training standards and build world-class skill training centers in India. Kriti Vadera for DD India.
In the spirit of Swachh Diwali, Shubh Diwali, the Diwali Bazaar was organized by Blind Relief Association of Delhi, and it attracted visitors from all across Delhi and also beyond. The event provides a platform for the visually impaired trainees at association to demonstrate their skills. DD India's correspondent Siddharth Bhardwaj gets us more.
We're in India's capital, Delhi, and it's festive season here. It's Diwali. It's the festival of lights, joy, and happiness. Stay with us as we bring you more.
These adept fingers have been molding wax into Diwali candles. Harish Kumar himself has not been able to witness Diwali festivities, but that has not stopped him from celebrating the festival with his efforts. Harish Kumar is making candles for over 39 years now.
To make these candles, first we clean the container and add some oil to it. After that, we put thread, followed by slightly warm wax.
Diwali is just round the corner. The shopping malls and markets are once again both busy and brighter. Amidst these Diwali festivities, a unique celebration is unfolding in the Diwali Bazaar, organized by the Blind Relief Association, Delhi.
The Blind Relief Association organized this annual Diwali Bazaar to generate fund, and it supports us for running the institution. Primarily, our basic focus is that in the vocational trainees, we make products. During the skilling program, we make products, various products like paper bags, envelopes, sewing products, and also candles.
Shopping is more of an adventure, and the excitement of the shoppers is all the more palpable. People are happy that their Diwali shopping is lighting up lives of many.
The main reason why we come to this Mela is because we know that every year whenever we come, we are sure that we're going to get good stuff, and we know that we're coming back for the repeat, people, the stalls who are here, and also it's for a good cause.
Yeah, so the cause is good, the stuff is very good, and that is why we are just buying everything from here. We are trying to pick up the decoration and everything for this year.
Diwali teaches us that light, joy, and connection go beyond what meets the eye. And the true beauty of Diwali lies in the shared moments, laughter, and the traditions that unite us all. With camera person Ashish Sharma, this is Siddharth Bhardwaj for DD India, New Delhi.
And now we take a look at other stories making it to the headlines. Today is Dhanteras, which is the first day of the Diwali festival. On this day, as per tradition, people invest and buy gold and silver in form of jewelry and utensils. While Dhan means wealth, Teras means the 13th day of the moon cycle. Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, has wished countrymen on the occasion. Amid rising air pollution in the city, India's Delhi NCR received light rainfall in the wee hours on Friday, bringing much needed respite to the people. The national capital received light rainfall amid the Delhi government's ongoing efforts to implement the idea of artificial rain to curb air pollution. However, air quality across Delhi continues to be in the severe category, with the average air quality index around 460. The winter session of India's Parliament will commence from 4 December and continue till 22nd December. The session will be held in the new Parliament building and will have 15 sittings spread over 19 days. We're heading for a short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour, focusing on reopening an assembly plant that Stellantis closed in March. President Biden meets auto workers in Illinois and attends a Chicago fundraiser. The 6th edition of the Paris Peace Forum to kickstart, to focus on peace-building efforts and support for fragile countries. Following Prime Minister Antonio Costa offering his resignation, Portugal's President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa calls for snap elections. And before we head for the break, we'll take you live to Sushma Swaraj Bhavan, where the India-US Ministerial 2+2 dialogue is going to take place. And here we have the leaders of both the countries for a photo op. We see U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, accompanied by External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and Defense Minister Rajnath Singh. Now, this is a 2+2 dialogue which is held every year between both the countries. And today we see the dialogue being held in India. The last edition of the dialogue was held in the US. And also we are talking of the regional priorities for both the countries, apart from other issues that will be taken up in this Ministerial 2+2 dialogue. To spell out more details, Akshay is joining us from Sushma Swaraj Bhavan. Akshay, good morning. Just a while back we saw the photo op happening. And we assume that now all the 4 leaders will be beginning the dialogue in a short while from now. Spell out more details. Explain to us the significance of the dialogue and what all is to be taken up in the agenda first.
Well, the entire 2+2 platform, as well as at the ministerial level dialogues that are held between these two countries, are extremely important, not just for India but for US as well. And these two countries are also, seen as two democracies that are trying to in fact counter somewhere the increasing hegemony of China as far as the South China Sea is concerned, the Indo-Pacific region is concerned. So it's not just these two countries, but in fact the entire Indo-Pacific region as well as the South China region. They monitor these talks very, very carefully because it impacts the entire region. And these are the talks that have been traditionally held. These are the issues that have been discussed traditionally in the earlier versions of the 2+2 dialogue. But this time, certain things have changed. This time, another conflict has broken out that, in fact, has potential of destabilizing the entire region. We are talking about the Israel-Palestine conflict. And as far as the conflict is concerned, it rages on. Over 12,000 people have been killed, and there is already a spillover that has started to take place in the Middle East. That impacts the oil prices across the world. So that is why it becomes extremely important for both India and US to in fact step in to discuss that how both of these countries can collaborate, how can they in fact discuss the ways of finding some kind of a solution to this conflict that is not only costing a huge and significant humanitarian price, but it is also impacting the economies not just of the global South but the entire world. So that is why both of these countries will be discussing the Israel-Hamas conflict. They will be discussing the Ukraine conflict that has been going on for over a year now, because that has also impacted the global economy. The global it impacts the security.
All right, Akshay, I'll interrupt you here at present. Even as we speak, we see that.
May I begin by inviting my senior colleague, the Minister of Defense, Sri Rajnath Singh Ji, to make the opening remarks.
Good morning, Excellencies. Secretary Austin and Secretary Blinken, it is a great pleasure to receive you both in India. I fondly recall our last ministerial 2+2 meetings in Washington, D.C. in April 2022. I welcome both of you and your delegation of India. The India-US bilateral relationship has seen a growing convergence of strategic interests and enhanced defense, security, and intelligence cooperation. Defense remains one of the most important pillars of our bilateral relationship. Your visit to India is at a time when India and US are closer than ever before. In spite of various emerging geopolitical challenges, We need to keep our focus on the important. Abiding partnership which can address emerging challenges. I look forward to engaging and enriching discussions today. Now I invite my counterpart, Secretary Austin, to make his opening remarks. Thank you very much.
Well, good morning. It's great to be back in India. Secretary Blinken, Minister Singh, Minister Jaishankar, we're meeting at a time of great momentum. In the United States and India partnership. In the face of urgent global challenges, it's more important than ever.
Is part of an intense diplomatic engagement between our two countries. And its highlight this year was the Prime Minister's historic state visit to the United States in June, which has truly opened a new chapter in our relationship. President Biden's visit to Delhi in September contributed immensely as well to the positive trajectory of our ties. His support was key to ensuring productive outcomes at the G20 summit. The dialogue today will be an opportunity to advance the vision of our respective leaders, building a forward-looking partnership while we construct a shared global agenda. In the 2+2, we will undertake, as we have done before, a comprehensive overview of cross-cutting strategic defense and security ties, technology and supply chain collaborations, and people-to-people exchanges. Our meeting takes place even as we make rapid strides in all aspects of our bilateral agenda. Our trade is today in excess of $200 billion. FDI is rising in both directions. 270,000 Indian students study in the United States, and we have a diaspora of 4.4 million. We are exploring domains such as critical technologies, civil outer space collaboration, and critical minerals, even while consolidating established domains. Raksha Mantriji has highlighted new elements of our defense cooperation, including industry collaboration and innovations. A key focus of our discussions today will be the Indo-Pacific region. As we all know, India and US are key members of the Quad, which is scheduled to meet at a leaders level early next year in India. Similarly, we are also engaged in other plurilateral frameworks which reflect our strategic convergences, such as the IPEF, I2U2, and the recently launched IMEC. In context of the ongoing global developments, I look forward to exchanging views about developments in West Asia, Middle East, and Ukraine, amongst others. Once again, I welcome you, Secretary Blinken and Secretary Austin, and laud both of you for your friendship and for your support for our ties. May I now request Secretary Blinken to deliver his opening remarks.
Jai, thank you so much to you, to Minister Singh, to my friend Lord Austin. We're both grateful for your hospitality, for your partnership, and for this opportunity to join you for what is now the 5th U.S.-India 2+2 Ministerial Dialogue. When President Biden hosted Prime Minister Modi at the White House in June, both of our leaders set out a very ambitious agenda to build an even stronger and even more comprehensive strategic partnership that delivers for our people, as well as for the region, and we believe for the world. And together, we have been taking very concrete steps to deliver on the vision that our two leaders put forward. We are promoting a free and open, prosperous, secure, and resilient Indo-Pacific, including by strengthening our partnership through the Quad with Japan and Australia. One significant way we're doing that is by enhancing maritime domain awareness, sharing commercial satellite data with countries in the region to boost their capacity, for example, to combat illegal fishing, piracy, drug trafficking. We're also coordinating humanitarian relief and disaster response efforts in the Indo-Pacific. We're harnessing together the power of innovation to make our economies more resilient and to make our communities more secure while expanding inclusive economic opportunity. That's evident in the cooperation on semiconductors and advanced biotechnology, on our unprecedented investments in deploying clean energy at scale in our countries as well as across the region, and our joint research and exploration projects in space. We're bolstering our partnership in international peace and security, and specifically working to promote the world's rules-based order and uphold the principles at the heart of the United Nations Charter: sovereignty, territorial integrity, independence. Our defense cooperation, which we're strengthening again today, is a key pillar of that work. Finally, we're deepening the remarkable ties between our people, which is really at the heart of everything, exploring new educational exchanges, even building on what you've already described, steps to facilitate travel between our countries, reducing visa wait times. If there's one thing we've learned over the recent decades, it's that when Indians and Americans study together, work together, collaborate together, the possibilities for progress are infinite. It's that sense of possibility that animates our enduring focus on this partnership and on the region that we share. Indeed, this trip is part of an intensive period of American diplomacy in the Indo-Pacific. We are living, Secretary of Defense said, in an incredibly complex and difficult moment. No shortage of shared challenges that require our attention, require our determination, require our collaboration. And it only underscores how vital the U.S.-India partnership is and how important our efforts are to further strengthen it, including through the dialogue today. So thank you to our hosts, thank you to our colleagues, thank you to our friends.
Thank you, Tony. May I now request our media colleagues to kindly move on so that we can then begin our closed-door session.
Leaders at the India-US 2+2 ministerial dialogue that is beginning from now. It has in fact begun, and just a while back we saw the leaders talk of how important the relationship and the partnership between India and US is. All the four leaders talked of further strengthening the areas of interest between the two countries, that is people-to-people ties, also education and trade, and also they spelled out other important evolving new areas of partnership for both the countries. The leaders also mentioned the defense partnership between the two countries and how that has been an important aspect, and it will also give further scope for strengthening of the relationship. The leaders also talked of how they will be discussing the external factors as well, talking of the tensions in the Middle East and also Russia-Ukraine crisis. That will also be taken up in the talks. The dialogue has begun. We will keep you posted. Meanwhile, we turn focus to our correspondent Akshay Dongre, who is there with us. Akshay, all the leaders talked of the common points of the relationship which have strengthened the relationship over the years. but they're also talking of other important aspects, the new areas, the evolving areas, which can, lead to more fruitful relationship and further strengthen it. Let us understand more from you when we talk of this dialogue. This is the 5th edition of the dialogue between the two countries. And last year when we saw US hosted this dialogue, and Russia-Ukraine crisis at that time was the center of the talks. Let us understand more from you as to how has the dialogue evolved over these last 4 editions, this being the 5th edition, and how significant would this dialogue be on the global page for the rest of the world to look forward to?
Well, Preeti, if you're talking about the importance and how the 2+2 platform evolved from when it was held the first time.
Yes, 2018.
Yes, it was held with a vision that these two democracies that are India and the US, especially with India's rise both as an economic powerhouse and a manufacturing powerhouse, both the countries should come together and should have more frequent and periodic deliberations and discussions about the areas of mutual interest, mutual benefit, how these two countries can benefit from each other, and how they can come together to provide security to the entire region. So that is how the entire vision started, but it has now evolved. As far as the Indo-US relations are concerned, they have been improving for the past 2 decades, in fact. And once we talk about the 2+2 dialogue, the importance of both the defense ministry as well as the foreign ministries of these two countries. For example, the US Secretary of State talking and discussing his ideas, his vision, his concerns with the foreign minister of India, not just in the region, but the entire world. And the defense secretary of the US discussing and talking, sharing his expertise, getting ideas from the Indian defense minister, Mr. Rajnath Singh today. All of these exchanges can in fact enhance the synergy that these two countries have. We heard the leaders talking, we heard how they were talking about the Indo-Pacific region. That is a region of key interest for both of the countries. The region which was earlier known as the Pacific region has been was renamed in fact to Indo-Pacific region by the US, signifying how important India's role is going to be in the region as far as providing security, providing or rather maintaining democracy, maintaining rule of law, and that is how US now considers India extremely important as far as the region is concerned. We also talked about, the leaders talked about that there will be certain evolving issues. So, like you said, the last time the key issue was the Ukraine war. How both India and US can do more as far as providing the world with food security, providing the world with solutions to these kind of conflicts. But now what we have seen in the past 2 months with the Israel-Hamas conflict waging on, destabilizing the region, spillover taking place, this is certainly going to be one of the key issues that will be discussed by the two countries, because it is an area of mutual interest again for India that relies on oil exports by the Middle East, and for the US that has significant infrastructure in the Middle East. It has significant relations with the countries of Middle East, and with the Israel-Hamas conflict, the countries are divided right now. There is spillover taking place. There are now more possibilities of new fronts opening in the region that could in fact destabilize the world economy. So that is one area where these two countries, the timing of the 2+2 dialogue has become very significant, because these two countries definitely are going to discuss that issue as well. The Indo-Pacific region, like always, will be taken up because that remains on the agenda like every time. The South China Sea will remain on agenda, with the Defense Secretary of Defense of the US having discussions with the Defense Minister of India. Both are certainly going to talk about the co-manufacturing of cutting-edge technology. For example, the GE 414 engines that are going to be co-produced by India and US that will be used by India for its Tejas Mark II platform. So all of these issues will be discussed by the two countries and are extremely important for both the US as well as the India from security point of view as well as diplomatic point of view.
All right, Akshay, we leave it here. And as the dialogue begins, we will come back to again during the day. At present, the dialogue is continuing, and we will keep our viewers posted. Thank you, Akshay, for joining in with those details. Meanwhile, let's turn focus to other updates we're following. President Joe Biden threw his support behind the United Auto Workers' efforts to unionize employees at a car plant in Illinois. It was his first stop before heading to Chicago for a campaign reception. The president's visit focused on reopening an assembly plant that Stellantis closed back in March. In his address, Biden called for unionization across the auto industry and embraced the broader labor movement.
The auto companies were doing incredibly well. So auto workers should be doing incredibly well as well. You saved the auto industry, and they should step up for you. A simple proposition. And my administration announced $12 billion to convert the existing auto factories to manufacture electric vehicles if they're in the transition. Because I strongly believe when a company transitions to a new technology, they should retool, reboot, and rehire in the same factories with the same workers in the same community that existed there before.
The 6th annual Paris Peace Forum will begin on Friday. Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan, Prime Minister of Georgia Irakli Garibashvili, Chairman of the Presidency of Bosnia and Herzegovina Zalko Komisic, and President of Montenegro Yakov arrived at Elysee Palace on Thursday. French President Emmanuel Macron welcomed the leaders and held bilateral talks with several state leaders. Also, the 6th edition of the Peace Forum will focus on peace-building efforts and support for fragile countries in context of a multi-crisis. It will also focus on responsibility of major powers and emerging powers in peace-building. The Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammed Shatayyeh and other heads of states and politicians arrived at the presidential palace in Paris for dinner with President Macron on the eve of the Peace Forum. Discussions will focus on global challenges from migration crisis, climate change, and the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Over 50 nations are attending the forum, including several European countries, the United States, regional powers such as Jordan, Egypt, and the Gulf countries. The Paris Peace Forum 2023 comes against a challenging backdrop of geopolitical tensions, which makes collective action all the more urgent. Topics that are up for discussion include the risks associated with technology, addressing inequality, climate change, and peace-building efforts. DD India's Rebecca Bandhan reports from Paris.
The theme for this year's Paris Peace Forum is seeking common ground in a world of rivalry. The aim of the annual event is to discuss global challenges, drive coordination and political momentum, and ultimately promote good governance. With the forum taking place against the backdrop of the Israel-Hamas conflict and Russia's war in Ukraine, talks about peace and security seem all the more relevant. Experts say the event is an important opportunity for dialogue on urgent issues, but that expectations need to be managed in terms of what the Paris Peace Forum can achieve.
I don't think that it's going to achieve a huge political breakthrough on any of the crises that we are seeing today, but it is certainly a valuable forum, particularly for the connections between civil society and governments, as well as both civil society and governments and the private sector.
The list of speakers at the Peace Forum includes presidents and prime ministers, Nobel laureates, and representatives from non-governmental organisations. French President Emmanuel Macron is part of the event, along with the head of the World Bank, Ajay Banga. Climate change is one of the global challenges that will come into sharp focus. Leading up to the main event, the Paris Peace Forum is hosting the One Planet Polar Summit, which is billing as the first international summit dedicated to poles and glaciers. Researchers and scientists from over 40 countries will meet in Paris to share their findings, as they warn of an urgent need to act to protect these fragile environments. The North and South Poles are central to the planet's climate regulation, and the state of the world's glaciers has an effect on communities and sea levels. Other topics that will be discussed at the Paris Peace Forum include cybersecurity and risks that come with the rise of artificial intelligence. The forum comes as challenges only seem to be mounting globally. Rebecca Bandhan in Paris, reporting for DD India.
Portugal's President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa has dissolved parliament and called for snap elections. The announcement comes after Socialist Prime Minister Antonio Costa offered his resignation following the arrest of his chief of staff as part of an anti-corruption investigation that includes allegations of malfeasance and influence peddling. Speaking after meeting his consultative body, the Council of State, Rebelo said that the government will remain in function for now, but the election was needed to provide clarity and direction to overcome an unexpected void that surprised and disturbed the Portuguese. Let's turn focus to sports now. In cricket, Afghanistan will face South Africa at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad on Friday, that is today. The semi-finalists, South Africa, are at number 2nd position in the points table with 12 points. Bavuma and company lost their match against India by 243 runs, and they will now look to focus on their semi-final clash with Australia at Eden Gardens on 17th of November. Afghanistan, on the other hand, is at number 6 with 8 points with a horrendous run rate. Afghanistan lost their last match to Australia courtesy Glenn Maxwell's double century that left the cricketing world awestruck. They are virtually out in the race to qualify because the 438-run victory they need against South Africa to push New Zealand out of 4th place on net run rate is impossible. India, South Africa and Australia have qualified for the semis, with New Zealand in solid position to take the final spot. That's it in this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. We will be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. You can also connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.